Welcome to this Facebook Live. I've had some technical difficulties today, so it's a bit late in posting, but I just wanted to make sure that the information went out today. And from next week, I will be using a different method to ensure a more smooth delivery. So thank you so much if you're joining me. Please feel free to write any comments or shares in the chat and in the comment section, and I will definitely be responding and looking at those after because I really want this to be an interactive, and I want to hear from as many people as possible. My name is Darlene Adams, and I have written a book called How to Developing Critical Thinking Skills in the Primary Classroom. And critical thinking skills, as we all know, is a very important topic in the 21st century, in this 21st century teaching and learning environment. And so I have developed a framework that is a specific framework that teachers can use to really understand how they are using their own critical thinking skills and how those skills are developing in the classroom. So I'm really excited to share about it. For the next 10 or 12 weeks or so, I'll be sharing bits and pieces of my framework so that you can get an idea of how to implement and ensure that your students are developing the critical thinking skills that they need to become our future leaders. So I'm excited. Today, we're going to be talking about open-mindedness. Now, open-mindedness is the foundation for all learning. If you do not have an open mind, you cannot learn something new. An open mind is a prerequisite for learning. And so as teachers, we also need to be lifelong learners. We need to have open minds to new ideas, new information, new everything, especially for how technology and information and everything is changing so fast in this current climate. So it's important for us to understand, first of all, what it means to be open-minded, and then also what it means or how we can see it developing in our students at school. So I have a course that goes very deeply into this. So if you're interested in knowing more, please send me a private message and I'll get all the information to you. But this will just give you a basic understanding of what it means to be open-minded and how you can use that information in your classroom to allow your kids to be more engaged and more curious and learning what you want them to learn, but also learning what they want to learn. So open-mindedness, as we talked about, is the ability to accept new information. And I just want to tell you a little story about a time when I wasn't being very open-minded. When I was in elementary school, I learned that there were 9 planets. Everybody knew that there were 9 planets. I knew there were 9 planets. I was taught it. I knew the 9 planets. I knew their order. I knew which one was closest to the sun and which one was furthest away. And I felt like really strong in that knowledge. And then they changed it. Who are these they people? The scientists, the astronomers that study the sky, they found so much more moving objects in the sky. And so they had to go in and really refine what they considered a planet. So previously, as I understand, I could be wrong, previously it was basically any of these big rocks or gaseous giants that were orbiting the sun. But now they found out that so much more is orbiting the sun. To make a long story short, this 8-year-old son of my friend was visiting and he started talking about the 8 planets. And I was just like, there's not 8 planets, there's 9 planets. And he was just like, no, there's 8. And so like we argued a little bit and I looked it up and I was like, what? And honestly, it took me 10 years before I actually Googled it, found out the information that I was telling you about why they decided that Pluto is not a dwarf planet. And it wasn't until I accepted this new information and added it to the old information when I was able to change my mind. That took 10 years. We don't have 10 years. Do you know, like in 2022, that's when AI started being available to the public. And look how much it has changed in just 3 years. And so things are changing so fast. New information is being discovered at like rapid rates. We don't have 10 years to take in new information before we decide to change our minds. Our minds need to be much more flexible. There's something called cognitive flexibility. You can also find more about that on one of my platforms where I have more information. It's called WAP. If you want more information about that, please let me know. And it's a very important skill to be able to allow new information to integrate with the information that we already have. And sometimes that means completely getting rid of old information. We totally have to change our minds. We have to totally think new ways and in new thoughts. So in the classroom, how does this show up in the classroom? Well, I would say that if, as a teacher, we are so strict with our rules and we have a classroom where we're doing most of the talking and the students are sitting quietly writing notes or just listening, that is not a very open-minded classroom because you only have one mind that is giving out information. We need to be open-minded enough to realize that these kids that we're teaching, these students, they have a lot of information. They have ideas. They have knowledge. And they sometimes have knowledge that we don't have. And we have to be open and minded enough to accept that this information, it needs to be shared among the students so to enhance their learning. And we need to be open-minded enough to realize that it's not about content knowledge anymore. It's about how we receive information and how we can use that information to create and innovate and make changes for our communities and for our nations. And so all the content that we need can be found on the internet. But children's and all of our minds need to be able to process that information. And processing information comes through dialogue and ability to express yourself. And so we need, as teachers, to be open-minded enough to allow that in our classrooms. And we need to be making a shift from teacher to facilitator. Sure, we can provide information, we can provide activities, but we need to provide information that is being processed by the kids so that they are really engaged in the learning and their cognitive facilities are being developed. So one of the other things is that, have you as a teacher ever you're there and you make your lesson plan and you're really proud of it and you think this lesson plan is awesome and these kids are going to learn this, and at the end of the lesson all the kids are going to know it and it's going to be so great, and you're in the middle of delivering that lesson. One kid raised his hand, but miss, I think da 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 da. And so it's kind of on topic. They're thinking about what you're telling them, but they're going off in a different tangent. what do we do? What would you do? Do you tell the student, be quiet, it's not time for questions? Do you tell the student, oh, great question, but we'll talk about it later? Or do you take the student's question and say, wow, that's really an interesting point. Let's talk about it more. And so then as you're talking about it, maybe you find out that more students are interested in that more students have information about that. It develops into a lively discussion or topic where you can actually see that the kids are learning something. Or it can be a point where it's just like, it's a question and you don't know the answer. And you're just like, oh, I don't know. But you know what we can do with that? We can write it down. Let's write down that question and let's figure it out. And then if you have Google or if you, whatever way that you can use to find out information, either right there in the classroom, but if that's not possible, making it as a homework for people to discuss how we can answer that question. If we did this with our kids, how much more interested do you think they're going to be in the lesson? I think they're going to be really interested. I think that it's going to engage them so much that they're going to be excited to come to class and excited to tell their students and the teacher all about what they're learning. They'll be even talking about it at home. You know what we did today in class? Wouldn't that be exciting? So in terms of growth and learning, it's really important that we are very reflective as teachers in terms of how open-minded we are. And so I propose that our open-mindedness will help us to be more creative in our solutions to the problems that we see in our classrooms. So maybe in one of your classes, you have that engagement and everything is going well and the kids are learning, but you have another class where it's just like everything is landing flat and nobody's engaged. It's like that classroom. I want you to take this idea of open-mindedness, and throughout this week, I want you to reflect and think about what that means in your classrooms, in your teaching and in your learning. Because another thing is about sometimes the kids have their own ideas and they don't want to accept other ideas. But we need to model that it's okay. It's okay to listen to other people and it's okay to take information from other people. We don't have to accept it as truth the first time, but as you keep talking about information, that's how ideas formulate and the processing of information happens. So I want you to really reflect and see if there are any ways that you could change. If there are ways that you have changed already and you're seeing some very positive results, maybe some ways that you've changed and you're seeing negative results. I would love for you to share all of this in the comments, because when you share, then others can learn from your sharing. And we can all help each other to be the best teachers that we can be. So I hope throughout this week that you really take time to reflect on that and to make some decisions and try something new, something that you've never tried before that you think will be exciting for the teachers. So in closing, I just want to say that open-mindedness is really the foundation for all learning. And we need to find the areas, because we all have areas in our brains where we're closed-minded. And there are areas where we're open-minded. So we just need to be more and more open-minded, and we need to really model that for our kids so that we can build the critical thinking skills. Now, this is the foundation step. Next week, we'll be talking about self-regulation, which works together very well with open-mindedness. It's very important. And so we will move on, but I would love, love, love to hear from you in the comments. And if you're interested in a more in-depth course where we talk about this and we specifically coach you through the process and really develop the skills that you need in the classroom and give you all kinds of activities that will develop the skills, that is all available inside the course. So it's great to be here, and I hope to hear from many of you soon. Take care. Bye.